AO for telling my BF to shove his sorry ass up his rear end for ignoring me after making love. Hello, I am a 25-year-old female and my boyfriend, who is 28 years old, and I have been in a relationship for 3.5 years, living together for 3 years. We are together with plans for marriage, and I even spoke to his mother over the phone since she resides in a different city. I am writing this on a Monday afternoon. We both work in corporate environments. However, I have a 6-day work week while he has a 5-day work week. I work half a day on Saturdays, and we both have Sundays off. Please understand this is provided for context. We have an established rule that on Friday nights, he is free to play video games with his group of friends, as that is the only time he can spend with them. Those are his words, not mine. Last Friday, he started a conversation about the significant meeting I had scheduled for Saturday and expressed his enthusiasm about it. I was leading a podcast with the chairman of my company, which was monumental since I had only been with the company for less than a year. We were discussing various topics, and I genuinely felt the flow of our conversation, sharing my excitement, nervousness, and plans for Saturday's meeting. Suddenly, it reached 10 p.m., and we abruptly ended our conversation to prepare for his gaming session. I felt a bit let down but chose not to voice my feelings. Nearing midnight, I asked him several times to wrap up. I wanted to continue our conversation, but his shouting and the light from his game were disrupting my sleep. Eventually, I gave in and went to bed feeling angry. The following morning, I woke up enthusiastic about my meeting and tried not to focus on the previous night's events, as his habit of starting conversations and then withdrawing has become common due to his short attention span. My podcast went exceptionally well, and everything progressed smoothly. However, I arrived home quite late and was too fatigued to engage in a lengthy conversation with him after standing for 4 hours during the shoot. I quickly shared a summary of my day with him, and we went to bed early. Sunday brought its climax. Our day started seamlessly, watching movies while cuddling and chatting. At one point, we became affectionate and engaged in intimate activity. He immediately took a quick shower, whereas I took longer as the water was getting too cold for my liking. Typically, I indulge in a longer bath on Sundays, my only time off in the week. However, last week, I was eager to discuss our relationship and finished my bath in about 15 minutes. Before entering the bedroom after my bath, I went to our study room to grab a small notebook so we could talk about our future plans and other matters. This is an activity we enjoy from time to keep each other informed. Upon entering our bedroom, I found him engrossed in his game. While I was in the bath, he had called his friends for an hour-long game session. At that moment, all my excitement faded away. I felt an overwhelming sense of betrayal and disappointment from him. I wanted to maintain the moment and sweetly asked him to stop playing, but after a couple of minutes, it became clear he had no intention of cuddling or chatting with me as we had before becoming intimate. It felt as though he was only being kind to achieve his desires. I went to prepare lunch for myself, stopping communication with him. After approximately 45 minutes, my frustrations boiled over, and I turned off the Wi-Fi, then promptly turned it back on to disrupt his game. He got up as his game stopped and firmly told me, "You are being too much." That infuriated me. I refused to look at him and quietly scrolled through my phone until the evening. Around 7 p.m., he approached me, asking why I was acting that way. He mentioned that one of his friends, whom he had been ignoring all afternoon, inquired if we wanted to go out together. Typically, we invite his friends whenever we go out, but that day, I had no desire to pretend there was no issue. There were no apologies or sweetness from him. I expressed how I felt excited and how his actions affected me. His behavior genuinely disgusted me. He reacted as if I had accused him of something far worse. He then went silent and did not speak to me for the rest of the evening. Today, on Monday morning, he woke up acting affectionate as though nothing was wrong. I directly told him not to touch me and ignored him until we left for work. I had to text him about some bills and other matters, and we ended up chatting about work-related topics. He maintained a demeanor, as if nothing was amiss. Finally, he suggested that we should continue our practice of keeping our phones away before 9 p.m. I replied that I did not want to do anything together at the moment. I reiterated how he had made me feel and how hurtful his comment had been on Sunday evening when I turned off the Wi-Fi. He claimed he lost his temper and that being interrupted was the only thing that made him angry. I pointed out that he hadn't offered an apology even once in nearly 24 hours since the incident. He then gave me a half-hearted apology, which I dismissed, expressing my displeasure with it. He appeared shocked and mentioned how rude I was being. I clarified that my response was nothing compared to his behavior. That concluded our communication for the day. Now, I am in my office typing this. We have been experiencing difficulties in our relationship over the past few months. February 2025 was actually going very well, and I was hopeful about our future. Now, I am uncertain whether our relationship would have lasted this long if we weren't living together due to significant mistakes he made previously. I have accepted too many apologies. There has been no cheating or third parties involved, but I know he genuinely loves me. However, his indifferent attitude has been a long-term issue he has acknowledged himself. Also, his apologies tend to come only when I am on the verge of tears or refusing to speak to him. I also feel guilty about my choice of words since we generally don't communicate this way. Still, I cannot forget how I felt standing there with a small notebook in hand and numerous thoughts in my head, eagerly waiting for him to stop playing his game. Am I overreacting, and am I heading toward the I the asshole section? I'm feeling confused and angry and genuinely need advice on how to handle this when I return home today. Additionally, I want to mention that I am an introvert who hardly interacts with anyone in the office. Not many people engage with me due to the small number of females at work, and everyone tends to keep their distance to avoid controversies. This is common in my country due to past experiences in the company. There is also a significant age gap, and I am the only female in my department, so I have little need to converse with others. After more than 10 hours without a meaningful conversation, I would appreciate listening to someone, even for just 30 minutes. I'm not asking for hours. Also, I do not control his gaming schedule. It is simply what he and his friends have arranged, given their limited availability in corporate life. We do not always sit down with a notebook to talk, but I genuinely wanted to discuss our future plans, something we regularly do nothing serious, just visualizing everything together in a relaxed manner. He is not a dedicated gamer, he merely plays on his phone without headphones. We had planned to make lunch together after our showers, but he began playing instead, and I ended up eating my lunch alone. Am I the asshole? Am I overreacting? Story 2. Girlfriend, 39F, says that I, 33M, abandoned her in the hospital, feeling conflicted about whether I did the right thing. This is going to be an extensive post, so I apologize in advance. A summary can be found at the end. I'm not certain if this detail is pertinent, but my girlfriend and I have been in a relationship for approximately 2.5 years as of the time of this writing. In August, my girlfriend, 39 years old, was hospitalized due to acute pancreatitis brought on by excessive drinking. She also had a significant amount of fluid accumulation around the right side of her chest and heart linked to her pancreas. During her 17-day stay, she underwent 2 chest tube placements and 1 surgery. I, 33 years old, was present with her every single day and night. My workplace was only a 5-minute drive away, so I would shower at the hospital. I returned home only a couple of times to pick up clean clothes and do laundry. Throughout this period, I ensured she received everything she desired: food, beverages, and snacks. I would bring my laptop so we could watch movies and shows together, since the hospital cable seemed to feature the same 3 shows across 40 channels. I would fetch her water and ice from down the hall. I assisted her with bathing and helped her to the bathroom while managing the IVs, oxygen, and chest tube tank, making it easier for her and reducing the burden on the nurses. I stayed with her for nearly the next 2 weeks as she recovered at home, but her condition did not improve significantly. During her post-operative appointment, they discovered fluid on the left side of her chest. She received another chest tube and was hospitalized for 8 more days. I was also there every day during this time. At this point, I could count the number of nights I spent in my own bed over the past month and a half on one hand. By October, she finally returned to work, but she was frequently calling out or leaving early, a few times each week, because she still did not feel completely herself. I supported her as best as I could by bringing her the food and beverages she wanted, taking her out to eat on our days off, and simply being present. However, Since we do not live together and have somewhat conflicting schedules, she was often asleep by the time I finished work. Around that time, her family began to completely ignore me, even when I greeted them or attempted to engage in conversation. They would speak negatively about me to her without any real justification, simply because I was there caring for her. This was also when she began drinking again. While it was not as excessive as before, it still made me uneasy, especially considering it was what led to her initial hospitalization, which caused her to lose a lot of trust in me. In January, she returned to the hospital for another 8 days due to severe shoulder pain and to have some residual fluid removed from her chest. By the end of her stay, the doctors were unable to determine the underlying issue and recommended physical therapy for frozen shoulder, noting that the fluid could become a problem again. She has now spent over 30 days in the hospital, and I remained by her side throughout. Unlike the previous 2 visits, we did not create a hospital-like environment. Each day, I packed a bag with clothes and brought it to work, ensuring that if she was discharged, it would not require a lot of effort to clear her room. A little over a week ago, she called me to express that something was wrong and she needed to return to the hospital. Once again, the issue was fluid around her chest on both sides, leading to the necessity for 2 chest tubes. They identified the overall problem and the cause of the fluid and consulted with 4 different medical teams before she even left the emergency room. I was on vacation, so I spent the second half of the week there, staying overnight. Since her room lacked a shower, I would go home in the mornings to shower and return within an hour. Having to shift back to overnight shifts at work, I also spent the first 2 nights back at the hospital. I managed to sleep only a couple of hours each night before going home to shower and then driving to work to arrive at midnight, and at 10 p.m. on the following night. By the second morning, I was so fatigued that I knew I could not stay the night again. I needed to ensure I got some rest before heading into another 10-hour shift, compounded by the back pain I was experiencing from sleeping on a recliner. It has now been over 4 months since her family began disparaging me without cause. So each time they were at the hospital, both this time and the prior 2, I avoided being in the same room with them or staying elsewhere. They criticized her for eating the popcorn that I brought instead of opting for a standard hospital breakfast, which led to a heated argument between them, followed by another between her and me regarding the situation, as they were displeased that I brought her items. I ultimately decided that since their comments were consistently negative, I wanted to distance myself from the situation entirely and focus on my declining mental well-being due to the toxicity of both her family and my work environment, while also trying to care for her since August with seemingly minimal appreciation from anyone. I went no contact for a couple of days. I understand I should not have done that, but I needed a moment to prioritize my own needs. She had also taken her own brief break a few months earlier. Today, I expressed to her my desire to discuss some matters. However, I could not convey this to her since she seemed unwilling to communicate, fearing it would just be a repeat of the discussions we had been having lately. What I wanted to address was the need for boundaries concerning our work-related conversations, and to inform her that I did not want to hear any more about her family's comments about me, as it was significantly impacting my mental health. I also intended to let her know that I would be starting therapy since I felt unable to confide in her or express my feelings, considering she was going through a more challenging situation than I was. She perceived my actions as me completely disengaging from her, suggesting that I had abandoned her during those couple of days and that I did not understand what she was experiencing, insisting she needed to focus on herself. Since then, I have not spoken to her. I am uncertain whether I made the right choice by going no contact. After spending nearly 40 days in the hospital day and night for her, being there for her as much as I possibly could during this entire ordeal, it feels as if I abandoned her simply for taking a couple of days to care for myself. I love her dearly, and I'm afraid this might mark the end of our relationship. It is utterly heartbreaking for her to think I abandoned her when I have been so committed to supporting her. Summary: my girlfriend of 2.5 years has been in and out of the hospital since August due to health complications. I spent almost 40 days at the hospital with her. I distanced myself from the hospital environment and her family's negativity for a couple of days to focus on my mental health. Now, she feels I abandoned her when she needed me the most, and my thoughts are in turmoil. Edit. For those asking, she did defend me when her family was speaking poorly of me. However, our conversations have revolved around this issue for the last few weeks. When we typically go no contact, it is usually for a brief evening, allowing us to clear our heads and discuss things the following day. I should not have assumed that a talk to you later would extend over a couple of days this time. Story 3. Aita for standing up to my boyfriend's racist sister after she called me a dirty white devil. I, a 17-year-old female, and my boyfriend, a 20-year-old male, have been in a relationship for nearly 1 year. Since we started dating, his entire family has had an issue with my being white. My boyfriend's family is of Afghan descent and generally adheres to strict guidelines associated with their Muslim faith, specifically the Shia sect. Initially, we intended to keep our relationship a secret for a couple of years, but his parents discovered our relationship after checking his phone and insisted on meeting me. When I finally met his parents, they immediately required us to get engaged and planned a formal engagement ceremony for when I turn 18. After that, they invited me into their home and encouraged me to stay with them on weekends, which was fine until his eldest sister, who is 28 years old, began spreading falsehoods to their parents, claiming that he would be imprisoned for dating me since I am under 18. However, in my country, the legal age of consent is 16, regardless of the age of the other party. Once we clarified this misunderstanding with his parents, his sister ran away, unable to continue deceiving them. She wanted to lead a life focused on using and sleeping with men for money. Following that episode, I was at his home on an exceedingly hot day when he asked me to walk to the store to pick up some items. I opted for a modest pair of shorts that barely reached above my knees, along with a loose-fitting t-shirt, and stepped outside. While I was there, I noticed his older sister, who is 26 years old, exiting her car to visit their parents after dropping her husband off at his family's residence. Upon seeing her, I smiled politely, greeted her, and asked if she wanted anything from the store. She gave me a shocked and disdainful look and declined my offer. I accidentally left my wallet inside the house, and as I returned to fetch it, his sister started yelling at me, calling me a dirty whore for wearing such revealing clothing in public, and claiming that her brother should be ashamed of me for supposedly seeking attention from other men. Prior to this, I had asked my boyfriend if my outfit was appropriate, and he assured me that it was. While she berated me, I repeatedly apologized, expressing that I would change and that I did not intend to offend her, but she continued to hurl insults. After a few moments, their parents intervened, asserting that my attire was acceptable and instructing her to stop. While they were preoccupied with her and my boyfriend, I went to change, but she followed me, insisting that her brother should not be with a filthy whore like me before leaving the house. A week later, I sent her a message that said, "Hello, insert name, it's insert name. I wanted to reach out because I feel we got off on the wrong foot, and I do not wish for things to remain like this. I apologize if my clothing offended you or your family. I acknowledge that I should not have worn that in front of your family and especially in front of your brother. It was inappropriate of me, and for that, I am sincerely sorry. However, I do not want our relationship to be strained, and I would genuinely like to get to know you better and vice versa. If you would like to sit down and talk, I would be very happy to do that, and we could grab coffee, have a girls' day together. I know you are quite busy with work, but I truly hope you would like to know more about me. Until then, I wish you a wonderful week," she replied. "Hey, insert name, thank you for your message. I also apologize. Perhaps I might have overreacted. Let's make that happen someday. Until then, take it easy and work hard in school." Since then, I have seen her numerous times at their parents' house, and I have always treated her and her family with kindness and respect, believing we were on good terms. However, today my boyfriend received a concerning message stating, "Can you please save our family's reputation and leave my name? You are going to ruin our family name. If you continue to be with her, I will never speak to you again." My boyfriend responded, "Why can't you just be happy for me? She has done nothing but be kind and generous." His sister replied, "She is useless. She doesn't help mom at home, doesn't clean or cook, and sits around all day like a bum. She doesn't even study in school and will never be able to afford a life. She is just a problem, and you will make mom and dad so ashamed that they won't be able to show their faces to the public because you are with that dirty white girl." My boyfriend countered, "You don't even know what she does during the week. She is at the top of her class, takes care of her sick grandmother, cooks, cleans, and does almost everything. She's even taking a course to learn our language and culture." His sister coldly said, "If you are that selfish, I am disgusted by you. Tell her to stop coming over until she gets her life together, finds a job, and becomes your wife. You should be ashamed of yourself." My boyfriend replied, "She feels comfortable enough to come here and relax with us after all the hard work she does at home. You are the selfish one for looking down on her without making any effort to understand who she is or what she does." The sister stated, "You cannot even call yourself a Muslim. You sleep in the same room and hug each other. I'm appalled to even call you my brother. Shame on you. You should be ashamed of bearing the blessed name of Mohammed. You don't deserve it." My boyfriend insisted, "She loves me and I love her. I have never experienced that with any of the girls mom and dad forced me to date. They only care about money. My name is kind and has always supported me when no one else would, so I am not ashamed to love the most remarkable and resilient woman I have ever encountered." His sister retorted, "She is disgusting. Look at her dirty white skin. I feel sick every time I see that filthy little white girl. She is not even worthy of breathing our air." My boyfriend shot back, "How dare you speak of my future wife like that? She has always treated you with kindness, even when she had every reason not to. She has complied with everything we have asked her to do and is truly an angel from our God." The sister sneered, "Since she was not born Muslim, she is a dirty white devil. She is scum for simply existing." My boyfriend replied, "How is she scum in her own country? How dare you have the audacity to speak about her in this manner? After this, you will no longer be in my life. Goodbye." Here is where I might be the antagonist. After my boyfriend showed me this conversation, I felt compelled to send her a message personally, saying, "I understand that you dislike me and view me as a disgrace to your family, but I love your brother, whether you acknowledge it or not. My race does not define who I am as a person. I could be Black, Asian, Mexican, Indian, or Afghan, and I would still be the same individual I have worked hard to become. All I wanted was a sister-in-law with whom I could enjoy coffee or go shopping, but now that is impossible because all you see is my skin color. I respected you as his sister, but now I find it impossible to regard you as a person because it is unquestionably racist to harbor hatred towards someone due to their race. I have consistently shown kindness to you and your family and adhered to your rules. You are the most disgraceful and prejudiced person I have ever encountered, and as of now, you mean nothing to me or boyfriend's name. If you want to talk about scum, you should take a good look in the mirror and then consider your words carefully." So, am I the antagonist? Story 4. I, 32F, and my BF, 32M, got into a nearly relationship-ending argument, and I can't just move on from it. For a little bit of context, I am a 32-year-old female, and my boyfriend, whom I will refer to as A, is a 32-year-old male. We have been together for a little over a year. A is probably the best man I have ever met. He has his own troubles and baggage to carry, but so do I, and we are both willing to carry our baggage together in order to potentially create a truly beautiful relationship. In the beginning, he panicked, got incredibly drunk, and tried to end our relationship, but ultimately decided against it. I informed him that I would be willing to give our relationship a chance if we established some ground rules. My rules were: 1. He should better moderate his drinking. He claimed to have been sober for 6 months and is not the nicest person when drunk, and 2. He needed to regularly see a therapist. He had one at the time, but they were not a good fit, and he effectively stopped seeing him. At that time, I was also seeing a therapist and recognized my own baggage from a previous marriage, so it did not seem like an unreasonable request. I kept telling him that I did not want this to be a one-sided relationship, and I urged him to set boundaries, with his main boundary being that I should not place him on a pedestal. He also requested that I not leave my clothes at his place because it created mess and clutter, which caused him anxiety. Fast forward to late last year. I began to falter in my self-care routine while managing a full-time job and attending school full-time. I started to express his fear that I was not taking care of myself, but I did not, and still barely do, see how I could balance work, school, and commuting to see him while also going to the gym and attending therapy once a week. I explained to him that, after seeing my therapist for about 2 years, we mutually agreed to see each other less frequently. I began to miss appointments because I could not keep up, and our meetings had become just me informing her of how well I thought I was doing. We reduced our sessions to once a month, and I believed I was doing okay. I did not seem to favor this idea and told me that his new expectation was for me to continue seeing her and making that time. I also have a long-standing phobia of the dentist, added to a difficult experience with divorce, losing my father during my senior year of college, lacking insurance, and generally feeling depressed. I had not seen a dentist in a very long time. A would encourage me to go, but I could not overcome my fear to simply do it, even with insurance. He offered to schedule my appointment, accompany me, and hold my hand, but I could not bring myself to do it until I experienced a dental emergency back in January of this year. This incident prompted me to start taking his concerns more seriously. My job and insurance do not cover everything, so I have to space out my appointments according to what I can afford, but I am making an effort. He has been working hard to uphold his part of our boundaries. He has quit drinking, secured a job, and found a therapist he likes. It is not perfect, as he has lapsed in his drinking more than once, and there are ups and downs, but he is genuinely trying, and I am very proud of him. That brings us to today. I had an argument with his father, and I sat with him, trying my best to listen to his concerns and frustrations. He became so frustrated that he said, "Everyone holds me to high standards because of my past, and I have worked so hard to meet all of them, but no one ever reciprocates that for me. I give everyone a million chances, but if I decide that sobriety is not for me anymore and start drinking again, no one would give me a chance." I looked at him seriously and told him that if he started drinking again, I would leave. He took that remark and shifted the conversation back to me and my boundaries, stating that I was failing every single one of them, yet he continued to give me chances. He pointed out that I was not seeing my therapist, that I did not take care of my teeth until it cost me money, and that I was transitioning off my selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, SRI, which he does not want me to do because he fears I will act irrationally. He said that I constantly placed him on a pedestal by writing him love notes, buying him gifts. His love language is gift-giving, whereas mine is words of affirmation, or texting him frantically when I do not hear from him for more than 24 hours. He expressed that he did not think this was fair when he was making significant efforts to meet my standards while I could not reciprocate. I excused myself from the room, uncertain how to respond, and took a moment to gather my thoughts. Later, I found him, attempted to discuss the situation, but he dismissed it, stating it was just whatever when it clearly was not. We were supposed to attend a family dinner with his extended family tonight, but I felt unable to go. I encouraged him to go without me, yet he refused, insisting he needed to resolve this issue first. The argument culminated in a substantial discussion about putting effort into the relationship and genuinely questioning whether we should remain together. I can admit that I was very emotional and scared, tapering SRI and on my period. This is not an excuse, but it certainly does not help. He repeatedly expressed his fears and how much he cares for me, stating that he does not want to witness anything negative happen because I do not care for myself properly, and he does not want to be with someone who disregards his concern. I apologized and told him that I did not know how to fix this, and he expressed that he did not want to sit and tell me what to do. We continued to argue, and he pointed out that he just wanted to have a good evening with his family and me, but our argument ruined everything. We both genuinely questioned whether we wanted to continue in this relationship, but after considerable discussion, we decided to give it a try as long as I worked harder to address his concerns and focused on my self-improvement. I made an appointment to resume seeing my therapist and informed him that I had already independently scheduled more dental appointments this year within my financial means. I told him that I would take my clothing home from his place, despite the fact that this genuinely hurts me and does not feel good. Following the argument, he seems to have returned to his normal self, while I still feel absolutely terrible. We both went to bed, and he is still sleeping, but I woke up and cannot seem to stop spiraling. I do not even want to be in bed next to him or to touch him, not because I am angry with him, but because I am upset with myself for feeling this way. I do not feel capable of discussing this with him any further, but I am unsure what else to do to avoid continuing to mess things up. Is it even worth trying to continue? I wanted to drive home hours ago, but doing that feels like I would be giving up. What if I am making a huge mistake?